You're listening to Brick by Brick, a podcast by The Brownstone Experience. I am Felicia, and I will be interviewing women of color entrepreneurs at the table. We'll learn more about their entrepreneurial journey, lessons they've learned, and tools they use to remain successful. Enjoy. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello.
How are you again?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good because I'm here with you. Yes, welcome to At the Table.
Okay.
So on At the Table, we discuss the entrepreneurship journey, your journey, and we also aim to divulge as much knowledge and information as we can for the budding, aspiring, current, frustrated entrepreneur in any way, as much as we can, the information that you bring as an expert. So Jennifer, tell us about what you do today.
Today, absolutely. So today, I am in the capital space, both private equity and venture capital, where I'm helping companies, mostly revenue generating companies, help grow and scale their business and help grow and scale through providing them funding options for their companies.
Yes.
A lot of those funding options look different. It's through a combination of debt loans, actual equity in itself, or a combination of the two.
Yeah.
But my day-to-day is helping companies grow and scale and prepare for an exit.
And that's so important to this month, particularly in Brownstone, because we are focusing on financial literacy.
Yes.
And so I think it's so important for us to be honest with ourselves when it comes to the capital conversations. As Black women entrepreneurs, the stat that I love, that I feel like is so black and white, right? So we have Black women are starting businesses at the fastest rate, right? Mm-hmm. But then on the flip side of that, you hear that we're only getting 2% of the capital. So for me, it piques my interest, my endless curiosity on, well, how do we fix that problem? How do we start having those conversations around having more capital within our communities and for our companies? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts? What comes to mind when you start to think about that stat about us getting so little capital to operate our businesses?
I think it's a myriad of things. I'm going to say, and because I've been on both sides. I've been that person pitching to investors, needing capital, telling them I need capital for my business and not getting the capital. But I've also been at the table where I've had to make a decision on if this group or this individual gets capital. Yeah. Right. And I think it's a misalignment of the need and in the profile of who you're speaking with. It's very powerful to know as an entrepreneur who you're speaking to and why you're asking for the money that you're asking, and really how they're going to get their money back.
Yes.
I call it the bluff slide. Bottom line up front. I'm hoping that is slide number 2 or 3 when you're presenting, because I don't care about the market. I don't care about any of the demographics. I want to know how you're asking me for $500,000, $1 million, $250,000. How am I going to get my money back and when? And yes. I think that part is missed, right? The trajectory of where the business is going. I think COVID, if you look at COVID, that was unexpected for everybody. And I think a lot of businesses either thrived during COVID or they didn't, and I think understanding that your team structure is very important to investors is a start, because we are investing in your team. Because if a pivot needs to happen, Lord forbid we get shut down another 2 years. Mm-hmm. If a pivot needed to happen and we gave you money, are you going to be able to sustain the pivot? Mm-hmm. Maybe your initial thought and idea for your phase 1 or 2 is not going to work. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to pivot and still make money. Can we trust you and the team that you have to make that happen? And a lot of times people come asking for, money, and it's just 1 or 2 people.
Yeah, sure.
They don't, so I would say I would start there with the team. Can we trust the team and the experience that they have to really make it work.
Yeah, so let's definitely touch on team, right? I, sorry, I'm thinking there's no I in team, but a lot of us are solo entrepreneurs, right?
Sure.
And so what does it look like? And then you also hear that people buy into you, right? One of the sort of frustrating things for me is the social media, well, people, you have to be out front. But at the end of the day, is that going to get capital to your business by being performative online? Right. I think that's a question that we should ask ourselves while we're building businesses. What would you say to the solo entrepreneur when who's building a business and what should be their first hire? How should they look at the future of building a team?
I love this, and I love starting from ground zero. I wouldn't say ground zero, but starting fresh, right? Because the reality of it is everyone that started a business doesn't want to be a big business. And that's okay. There's some people that have started a business to be able to have partnerships or resources that they use depending on the type of work that they're doing, and that's very much appropriate. In terms of when to know when to hire and when not, I think it's a matter of goal setting and understanding where you're trying to go and by when. I live and die by dates, calendars, and planning. Where do you want this company to go 3 to 6 months from now? And what are you projecting you're going to need 3 to 6 months from now? What is your biggest pain point? Is it marketing or is it sales?
What is your biggest pain point? So good.
Yeah. Where's your biggest pain point? And just really being able to, and how much money are you, revenue generating? And if you're not making any right now, okay, what do you need to get to be comfortable to hire a resource? And maybe this resource is a freelancer. Maybe this is not a full-time person that's there 40 hours a week. Maybe they're doing 5 to 10 hours a week, or maybe just 5, and maybe they're just doing 1 or 2 tasks, so just really understanding what your need is a start. And there's so much software, AI technology out there. I don't even want to touch on AI world now.
Yes, Lord.
To where they're doing it for you. They're doing it for you. So just understanding, you don't need, I've heard someone say, well, I need an admin that kind of control my calendar and all of that. And that was a couple years ago. I'm like, they have so many tools out there that do that. Bookkeeper, we got QuickBooks. I mean, there's so many things that you can automate and use to where, you can really save a lot by not having a dedicated resource. So really just asking yourself, why do I need this resource? What it'll be used for and how long do I need them? Is this project-based? Because it is a lot of money to have someone full time if you don't really need them. But the bigger picture is just being able to plan your plan for your business. Right now you should be looking, we're wrapping up Q1, Q2 is head there. So you should be planning for Q3 if you haven't already done so yet. Right. So it's just really having the proper planning and understanding on where you're going to need some of these resources and how you're going to fill these gaps.
Sure. Another thing that we sort of jumped right into the capital conversation, and now I feel like we're sort of peeling apart what it takes to get to the capital-ready place. So first we talked about, the desire to build a team or the path to building a team. But also I want to affirm the Black women entrepreneurs who feel like who feel some type of way about needing capital. You may think I need $5,000 to run my business this month, and I should feel bad about not having that money because most of us are bootstrapping our businesses. But the reality is when you look at the capitalism in America, right, they are operating off of other people's money, capital. So I want to make sure that it's understood that needing capital is real.
Absolutely.
And I want to talk a little bit about why that is. The wealth gap is one reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the practicality of needing the capital to run the business
is very normal. You do want to use OPM, other people's money, for sure, if you have the ability to do that. But you also want to prep yourself in a way to where you can use other people's money. If someone were to give, you $10,000 right now, how you've managed funds in the last 2 years is going to impact my decision on whether I want to give you that money today. not how much you've made in your business. I could love the idea and love you today, but how you manage funds in your life in general.
Yes.
That matters, and I think what we should be more aware of as just entrepreneurs, but specifically Black women, and why that, and I'm not saying that that's just a Black, woman's thing, but just on my own personal experience where I had to do a lot of deep digging, right, before I even got in this space, is that how you manage funds and how you get by up until a point to where you're asking, people want to know before they give you money. And I think that is a very practical thing. And I think it's a responsible thing, I mean, and I think a lot of that history on how things are managed and where funds were used, too much here, kind of tells the story about the person. Right, and just kind of what a person or a bank or individual is willing to give.
Yes.
Right, and so I definitely think we can overcome that barrier for sure. Because let's be honest, we have a lot of barriers out there that we have nothing to do with. We just have nothing to do with, even though we're the fastest growing race and ethnicity and gender to be starting businesses and running businesses. Right, getting capital to sustain our businesses seems to be a big problem. I get that. But things that we can do, and my goal is to be able to help make that smoother.
Yeah.
By helping educate on how to prep, how to pivot to win.
Yes.
How to pivot what you're doing in order to win the money, to win what you're trying to go. How to speak to the right audience about the right amount of what you're trying to do.
Yes.
Because it's a matter of words and lingo. And someone really has to ask you to the dance. I'm gonna be honest. In this space, people have to like you and they have to ask you to the dance. They have to want to see you there. And a part of that is being able to speak the same language, and understanding who you're speaking to and what matters most to them. And ultimately, it is the bottom line of the finances.
It's other finances.
Absolutely.
So that's a start.
That's a huge start.
Right? That's a huge start. And I heard in there as well your personal finances. Right?
Absolutely.
You said it tells a story, and it can also get you to a place of being able to borrow at your local bank level, right? To walk into a retail branch and to get a credit card or a credit union and to get a loan to fund your business at, years 1 through 4 or so. And then you get invited to the dance when we're talking to, people of in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the traditional way is the most hectic way, which is the banks, right, especially right now. But yeah, you do have the foundation. You have accelerators, you have foundations, you have family offices, you have just people that angel investors, I would call them, venture capital groups. There's so many avenues to go about asking for money. It's just about what approach is best for them or what you have. How do you present to them to where it resonates with what their expectation is?
Yes.
That's really what the goal is. And that's really the song and dance that you're doing. You're trying to figure out, okay, well, I'm talking to Angel Group. Okay, now I have to, this looks a lot different than talking to this grants and foundation group. You know what I mean? This looks a lot different talking to this audience. So being able to pivot those to win those opportunities and win multiple. My goal is to educate you enough to win multiple avenues. You need a whole bunch of channels of money.
Yes.
If you can. You don't have to just go through one channel. So I think it's a lot of education in that, but I think it's a lot of just really, explaining businesses in a way that resonates to the investors that are really looking to invest and provide you capital for your business.
Yeah, I've heard I've heard before, I won't say a lot, I've heard before that there's a disconnect, or I would say a moment of uncomfortableness when we walk into rooms and the investors don't look like us, right? So it again, it helps to have you sitting at the table, right, to hopefully, help to calm those nerves sometimes. Do you think, how do you think that affects our experience when we walk into the rooms and the investors don't look like us at all?
Well, they can't relate. That's the first thing I'm thinking, because most of the times we have products that resonate to us.
With us, yeah.
And I'm saying products because that's my space. But it could very well be whatever.
Yeah.
And whatever we're doing, it may resonate with us culturally. I mean, I've had a bunch of women come to me with hair products. And they go into a room full of white male investors. They're like, they ain't gonna invest in me. They don't even understand so I think it's a matter of, it's important to have representation in the capital space, period.
Yeah.
And it's also important to have representation in everything we do. But the reality of it is we have a shortage with whatever we do.
That's right.
There's $1 trillion a year being spent on products, and we are not at the table deciding what products go at the shelves.
Yes.
Have you thought about that? So there's a shortage everywhere. So you're going to have to really, and when I talk about steadfast and really stand in your superpower and being confident with what you're bringing, and validate yourself before you even go in there. You are enough. What you have is enough. Your job is just to find the right match.
Yes.
Right? And sometimes the right match comes after match number 55. Nobody gets it very seldom do you get it on your first ask, and that's okay. But we also have to be humble enough to go back to the drawing board, right? To take the critiques, go back to the drawing board, try to fill those gaps to improve, to wake up with enough strength to continue the journey.
Yes. Something that came to mind when you just mentioned, not deciding what's on the shelves and moving into larger spaces was the Miele deal, right? She's not the first one, but she's the most recent, I think, that comes to mind. And I had a couple people reach out to me and say, I want to know what you think about the Miele buyout. And I was honored that they would reach out and ask me what I thought about that, because I looked at it as an opportunity to educate on the importance of taking a deal like that, because I think a lot of us felt like it was a sellout, and I can't understand. I do understand why, but if it's frustrating, why? I mean, do we all have to be in the flea market? Do we all have to be at pop-ups with a table and 2 chairs? Like, why can't we be on the shelves with Suave? And and that's the path in which she's headed down. So what comes to mind when you think about a deal like Mia, or a journey of that sort to go from?
The first thing is that a lot of people don't understand the terms that were in the agreement and how far removed or not she really is still even today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The power of being able to merge or get acquired is to get, for one, you've been working at something for years and someone acknowledges it and wants to pay you for it. That's an honor in itself. A lot of people wish they could get to even that step. The second thing is, now this brand that you've been working on is now really about to accelerate, and you're still going to be known as the founder. There's a lot of things that you can level up and move on towards too. Now you can go into speaking.
Yes.
You don't have to be in the lab putting it together anymore, figuring out this team. You have a company that is partnered with you to ensure that they can handle that, right? So I think the blessing in that is really having the help and someone recognizing you've done a great job. I want us to work together.
Yes.
Right? The selling out part, I think people, there are people that start businesses to build legacy and keep it around 100 years. And there are some people that start businesses with an exit. I think she had an exit in mind, and I think it's smart.
Yeah.
She knew that she was either going to merge, get acquired, or go public, one of the three. And she chose a route, and that was her strategy. Yeah. And I think that more companies, more entrepreneurs should look at what their strategies are to figure out, why are you doing what you're doing?
Absolutely. That's
Passion
it right there.
stands behind a lot of people, and I think it's great. You definitely have to have that to get up. But when you're really coming to the table, and I think that's what gets a lot of entrepreneurs upset when they don't get capital or don't get because they have a lot of passion. I've been doing this and that. It's hard to measure passion. There's no metrics for that. Right? So when you think about why you as an entrepreneur are setting up this business or why you're operating the way you are and that strategy, it's because you should have an exit in mind. Because the world is evolving. It is just evolving. What at one point we needed people to do things. We don't necessarily.
Yeah.
Some people are even checking out their groceries at the cart.
Yes.
In the stores.
Yes.
Right? So things are changing. And so being able to keep up with the change and get to a point to where what you're doing or building is attractive, it's an honor.
It's an honor, yes. So I definitely hear, I definitely hear understanding what your goal is. Do you think that that's necessary coming into it? That you should have an understanding, or just when you recognize, right, the awareness part, when you recognize that, okay, I am building something to exit, or I am building something to create a legacy, then you need to get clear on the terminology and the education behind it.
Yeah, I think that you should do an assessment of some sort prior to stepping into starting a business, because you really don't know what the gaps are in the industry or in the world we're in right now. Right? I think everyone's goal is to start a business and make money, but how?
But how?
That why you factor. What sets you apart from everyone else? What is going to be your why you factor? What is your niche? And I think it's important. You don't have to, pay $1,000 for an assessment, but I think you should know as a person, I'm starting this business because I know there's a shortage, or I know that this is an opportunity, or I have this ability, that approach. As far as the exit, that doesn't come right off.
Yeah.
Sometimes that takes, a year or two. Some people know right off, and for me, I just feel like it's whatever is in you to do. I don't think always have to be magnified to be the biggest business of Fortune 500. I think that there's some things that, you're just making an impact and using your superpower and God's gift to you, maybe just at the home or to your neighborhood. It doesn't have to be big.
Yes.
And I think once you realize where you want to be, then it becomes simple.
Yes.
It just really becomes simple.
Yes. I want to fast forward through the journey a little bit, right? You mentioned the bluff slide. Bottom line.
Up front.
And are you connecting that to numbers?
So So bottom line up front is, why do you need the capital? Where you're going? What are you projecting? You're going to take this, and how long is it going to take you to get there?
The bottom line up front. So I'm sure we'll clip that. That'll be good.
The bottom line up front. And that actually, I was educated on that through business partner of mine, Chad Harper. So he taught me that, his all of his experience in the MA world, but just educating me on that, because just sitting through presentations, we get a lot.
Yeah, we
get like at least 100 a quarter that we have to. Okay, well, how many due diligence? Not even a full due diligence, and then narrow it down to 10 groups, and then it keeps going. And so, really, when you're going through all these decks, you're looking at, okay, what's the bottom line? Tell me what you want, how much, where you're going, where you plan to get there, and how.
That is definitely gems. I hope that helps a lot of our young ladies who are at that point, because that's a huge thing to get to that point.
Yeah.
I think I want to ask you for some tools that you would give an entrepreneur that you use to stay sane. And I really mean sane, right? Because entrepreneurship is, I just think it's mentally challenging, especially as Black women. I think that historically it is more comfortable to go to a job every day and work. It's more accepted in our culture. Entrepreneurship is being highlighted, right, because of social media, but the real journey behind the camera looks totally different. So what are some of your best practices or tools that you use daily?
Absolutely. Just find time to wake up and focus on you. That could be through meditation, that could be through workout, maybe meal prepping, whatever you need to do. And to have a disciplined schedule, like a workday calendar schedule. It's very important through aspects of the day, certain days of the week. Doesn't have to be full of color of different things. I'm a color person, color coordinator, right? So just being able to be disciplined with your schedule, and then also leave room for failure, right? There's some weeks, every week's not going to look the same. Every day's not going to look the same. You're not going to feel the same every day. Part of entrepreneurship and just growing as business owners is really learning the lessons learned.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't want to face those lessons, but those lessons learned are important. And just taking time for, the things that you genuinely care about doing. I do think that you have to like what you do. It's important, and why reminding yourself why you're doing it, and finding creative ways on how to continue to expand that over time, amidst all the new things that are always constantly being thrown at us, So I think there's a lot of power in being able to, depending on the season, change what your day looks like.
Yes.
And everyone doesn't have, in my mind, we're entrepreneurs as Black women of the home.
Yes.
It does not, entrepreneurship is not the only way. It comes at different phases of our lives. Triggers for that comes differently. It is not glamorous either. So I think that my advice is to just kind of get yourself on a disciplined schedule and find time for yourself and make sure you're passionate about what you're doing, because passion is important.
Yes. It is important. But when it's time to talk about these numbers.
Right, does not drive business.
Yes,
it is important. Absolutely.
You need to know that. You need to know that. I love it. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Jen.
you for having me.
Yes,
this is amazing. I appreciate you having a platform like this.
Yes, thank you
to be
so
able
much.
to support Black women. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I think that what you do is extremely important, especially in today's time. As I mentioned, the statistics that are being thrown at us.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
To clap.
Right.
But then when it's time to talk about the money to run the business, everybody gets kind of quiet.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that you're here to share the knowledge.
Yes.
And help us prepare to be invited to the party.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yay, thank you.
Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, like, and share so that others will learn about Brick by Brick by the Brownstone Experience. You can also learn more about our guests by going to our website, The Brownstone Experience.